My name's Luke and I live in Putney, and I grew up in Putney, and I've been cycling for about 8 years. The thing I love about cycling is you've got the sort of road to yourselves, well, without the cars, but you're in the fresh air, good exercise, you're awake when you go to work in the morning. You can, if you've had a bad day at work, you can take it out on the bike, you can enjoy it, and just sort of be with your thoughts for a moment, which you don't really get a chance to do nowadays with everything being so fast and furious. It just gives you a bit of peace and quiet and a bit of time to relax, and it's great exercise, which is good for me. So I was cycling home, and I'd just come past Clapham Common, going past Clapham South, and there was set traffic lights, went through the lights, and there was a junction, petrol station, and I was coming down this way, main road, had right of way, and there was hardly any other cars on the road, and I was perfectly visible, high-vis jacket, high-vis hump cover on my rucksack, two flashing lights on the front, two on the back, lit up like a Christmas tree, and a 4x4 came out of the side street on my right and went straight across the road, and I saw him at the last minute, so I didn't have time to brake or anything, and I took all of the impact was on his passenger side front wing of a 4x4, which is obviously incredibly high, so all the impact was taken at sort of top of my chest height. Head hit the bonnet. Luckily I was wearing a helmet, so I got a sort of 5-6 inch crack down the front of it, and I bounced off about 3 meters backwards and sideways into the side street, sort of wrapped up in my bike and struggling to breathe. Had cuts to my leg, cuts to my head, and thought I'd done a lot of damage to myself. Police and ambulance turned up and got put onto a spinal scoop and neck brace and taped down to the board and put in the ambulance, and got a trauma call to the hospital St George's. And when I went in there, I had a team of 8 or so trauma doctors working on me, and to sort of assess my injuries, straight into CT scanner, portable x-rays, blood, IVs, and luckily it turned out that the only damage I'd done to myself was I'd cracked a rib, and I very luckily walked out of hospital that evening. But the subsequent injuries that I've had, I've got permanent pins and needles down from my elbow down both my little finger and my ring finger, and I'm left-handed, which does pose a problem for some things, because that's my dominant hand. And I've got rheumatoid arthritis in my spine anyway, and which was being managed really well before the accidents. And since the accident, I've had permanent pain in my back morning and night. I've got to do stretching and exercises before I can even get out of bed. I've got to make sure I go in the gym, but then the pain of the injuries is a catch-22 because I can't, and then it gets worse. I've got spinal damage to the middle of my back about this height, which wasn't there before, and I keep getting trapped nerves in my neck from my head going sort of flying forward into the bonnet, and it's just sort of continuous. After the accident, I got readmitted to hospital 3 times for a knock-on effect from the injuries that I sustained, which wasn't ideal at the time, and still not. But I'm just trying to work through the injuries that I have and try and sort of manage them as best as I can. The main impact it had on my life was I'd had a son about 2.5 months previously. He was really ill, premature, was in intensive care, and nearly didn't make it. And my wife nearly died on the operating table, so I was looking after them a lot and doing all of the feeds, the picking up the baths, everything like that to look after both of them. And after the accident, I couldn't subsequently do that for 2 or 3 weeks because of the injuries I sustained to my body with bruised, cracked ribs, bruising, and so I couldn't even pick up my son, which was the most upsetting part of it, because I just couldn't physically do it. So I had to have him placed into my arms, and I couldn't look after either of them properly. And the other thing is, I've hardly been on my bike recently after seeing a massive accident that looked very similar to mine. And when I was driving, I was shaking for about half an hour afterwards, and I haven't been on my bikes pretty much since, because it just brought memories flooding back of what happened, and it's if I was watching my accident, that's pretty much what it would have looked like, and it was incredibly upsetting. And I've lost sort of one of the biggest passions of cycling and being out there, and I've still got nerve damage to my left hand, and I'm left-handed, so a lot of things, sometimes like my hand spasms and I can't drop whatever's in my hand. I can't grip things properly with it. So those are the biggest impacts that it's had on my life, with sort of not being able to use my hand properly, looking after my son, which was incredibly upsetting, and not really being back on my bike.